You know that moment in life when everything looks perfect from the outside, like a glossy postcard of someone else's vacation? That was me, standing barefoot on a sun-bleached balcony, gazing out over the Amalfi Coast, brush in hand, palette kissed with ochres and blues, thinking, maybe this is the moment everything finally makes sense. Spoiler alert, it didn't. My wife, Celia, was inside the villa we'd rented for the week. Picture perfect, like the setting itself. Freckles, golden shoulders, curls that danced when the wind came off the sea, just right. She was reading one of those thick paperback novels women buy in airports, halfway between poetry and soft lies. We'd come here to fix things. A reset, she'd called it, which is relationship code for, I'm already halfway out the door, but let's pretend a sunset might save us. And I was willing to pretend, because I still believed in things like vows and second chances, because I hadn't yet seen what was coming. On the second morning, I started painting her, not because she asked, but because it felt like the only honest way I could still look at her. She sat by the window, legs folded beneath her, sunlight bouncing off her skin like she'd been built out of warmth and summer. She smiled for me, not a full smile, not the one she used to give when I'd bring her tea or sneak up behind her in the kitchen. No, this one was polite. Museum smile. Pretty but distant. Still, I painted it. We spent the days pretending we were still us. Lunches on terraces, late walks on the beach, half-hearted board games, the occasional kiss that felt more like muscle memory than passion. But something in her was already gone, like when a wave retreats and all you're left with is the wet sand and a few broken shells. One night, I was finishing the portrait, just the outline of her jaw, the light in her eyes, that soft, polite smile, when she got up to take a call. "It's Lacey," she said, waving her phone and stepping out. I nodded like I believed her, but I didn't. I followed her with my eyes as she drifted down the hallway, her voice low, too careful for a chat with a girlfriend. The kind of careful that tries to hide something. I waited. I didn't press. I'm not the jealous type, not because I trust easily, but because I've always believed that if someone wants to leave, locking the door won't make them stay. When she came back, she kissed me on the forehead like I was an old man who'd done something sweet, and she went to bed. I stayed on the terrace, watching the waves scrape against the rocks below, wondering if love could actually erode the same way, slowly, quietly, until one day you look down and the foundation's just gone. But the betrayal hadn't arrived yet. That part comes later. For now, I still believed we could make it. I still believed that painting her smile might bring it back. I didn't know that the mask I was about to draw would end up being truer than her real face. The third morning was quieter. That kind of eerie calm that tells you something's off, but hasn't introduced itself yet. Celia made coffee, hers first, mine an afterthought. I noticed she stirred it counterclockwise, a nervous habit she only picked up when she was lying. It was subtle, but after 7 years of marriage, I knew her tells better than I knew my own reflection. She spent the day lounging by the water in her sun hat, legs draped over a chair like she owned the entire Mediterranean. I sat nearby, sketching lines for the painting, trying to capture her mouth just right. That half-smile. The way her lips curved like they were hiding the punchline to a joke I wasn't in on. Around noon, she got a message. She didn't announce it. No little, "Oh, it's Lacey again," no commentary. Just a quick flash of her phone screen as she angled it toward herself, thumb moving faster than necessary. Her shoulders stiffened for half a second, then loosened like she'd remembered she was supposed to be relaxed. I caught the reflection in the mirror across from her, an antique piece hanging above the villa's sideboard. The message lit up again. Just a glimpse, backward letters, barely a breath's worth of time, but I read it clear as crystal. "Tonight, just us." 3 words. Simple, devastating. And with them, the picture I'd been painting began to bleed in my mind. I didn't say anything. Not then. I walked to the easel, picked up the palette, and stared at the canvas. Her smile was still there. Innocent, lovely, loyal, and suddenly, entirely fictional. So I changed it. With the same hands that once held her waist in the kitchen, I redrew her mouth, not a smile anymore. A mask. Cold. Decorative. Hollow. A beautiful lie, right where her truth used to be. When she walked by and peeked at the canvas, I saw her expression falter just enough to notice. "That's different," she said. I shrugged. "Art's interpretation. Isn't that what you always say?" She didn't answer. She just nodded and wandered off, leaving behind the faint scent of foreign cologne. I stared at the canvas long after she was gone, at the mask I'd painted, and I realized something. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was curious. Curious how deep this rabbit hole went. Curious who the message was for. Curious whether she'd tell the truth if I handed her the chance with both hands. But most of all, I was curious what kind of man I'd have to become to stop being the one who got lied to. I didn't confront her that night. You don't walk into a trap when you can sit back and take notes on how it's built. Instead, I watched, listened, let her play out her performance while I memorized the script. Celia put on a white sundress that evening, one she hadn't worn in years, said it made her feel too bridal. But suddenly, she was all for it. Lip gloss. Earrings I'd never seen. She looked stunning, which only made it worse. A wolf in wedding silk. "You're not coming?" she asked, grabbing her clutch and checking her reflection for the fourth time. I held up my sketch pad, faked a smile. Got in a groove. "I'll stay in tonight." She smiled back, relieved. Which told me everything. I waited until the door clicked shut, counted to 50. Then I stood. The mirror from earlier, the antique one, still had a faint smudge where her message had flashed. Almost like the glass itself was ashamed to have shown me the truth. I walked to her side of the room, opened her bag, and like clockwork, there it was. Another phone. Burner style. Sleek. Black. Slicker than her usual choice. No password. Sloppy. Or maybe she just thought I was still that guy, the one who trusted first and never checked the fine print. The messages weren't long, but they were precise. Enough to slice a man up from the inside out. Room 206. Key under mat. Can't wait. Don't make me wait this time. He bought it. You're incredible. He bought it. Like I was a customer at a betrayal auction and won the grand prize. I took photos of everything. Every message, every timestamp, every stupid heart emoji. She wasn't just cheating. She was invested. Lies woven with intimacy, planned like an event, rehearsed until seamless. I didn't cry. Didn't scream. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the painting again, the one where I'd replaced her smile with that mask. And I realized I hadn't gone far enough. So I picked up the brush, dipped it in ash gray, added a crack down the middle of the mask. Hairline fracture. Barely visible, but deep enough to say, "I see you now." Because that's the thing about masks. Eventually, they break. And when they do, you don't see the monster underneath. You see someone ordinary. Someone cowardly. Someone who thought they were clever. Celia returned just past midnight. Smelled like another man's cologne and lemon gin. Didn't look me in the eye. Just toed off her sandals and said, "You still up?" I said nothing. Just looked at her and smiled. A different kind of smile. The kind that says, "You think this is over, don't you?" She walked past me, humming. And right then, I knew the next part wasn't about heartbreak. It was about writing the final scene and letting her see what revenge looks like when it's painted in silence. The next morning, she was all sunshine and innocence, scrambled eggs, soft kisses on the shoulder, a half-hearted, "Did you sleep okay?" Like I didn't know she'd spent the night 2 blocks down getting reacquainted with someone who wasn't me. I played along. That's the funny thing about knowing the truth. Once you have it, you stop reacting to the lie. You start playing chess while the other person's still drawing tic-tac-toe in the sand. "Great sleep," I said. Dreamt of a storm rolling in over the cliffs. Woke up before it hit. I smiled, sipping coffee. "Omen, maybe." She giggled. "Your dreams are always so dramatic." If only she knew. By afternoon, she was back in her bikini, lying on a lounge chair like betrayal required a tan. I took the canvas outside, set up near her, and began sketching again. Not her face this time, her hand. The one that had held the burner phone. Long fingers. Well manicured. Every detail mattered. There's something surgical about art when you're no longer painting for love. You paint like a surgeon cuts. With precision. With purpose. "Are you drawing me again?" she asked, stretching with theatrical laziness. "Just the part of you I still trust," I said without looking up. She didn't get it. Just laughed and closed her eyes. By now, I'd memorized the new pattern. Around 3 p.m., she'd go into town for espresso or to check the local art galleries alone. Spoiler, she didn't like espresso, and she thought modern art was a scam. But today, I encouraged it. "You should go," I said as I cleaned my brushes. "You'll love the gallery by the harbor. They've got masks on display from local festivals." She blinked, thrown for a beat. "Masks?" I nodded, friendly as ever. "They say people wear them not to hide, but to show what they want others to see." That one landed. She forced a smile. Sounds deep. Yeah, I said. It is. When she left, I followed. Not right away, 10 minutes later. I took the back alley through the lemon grove and made it down the hill in time to see her slipping into a hotel. Room 206. Same as the message. Same as the cowardly script they'd rehearsed. I didn't go in. No need. I wasn't chasing proof. I already had it. I was building something better. Stronger. A painting. Yes, but not just on canvas. A trap. Painted with calm. Framed in patience. That evening, I set the stage. Dinner for two. Wine poured. A finished portrait waiting in the corner, draped beneath a linen cloth. She walked in like she hadn't broken a single vow. Oh, she said, surprised. You cooked. I smiled. Last supper. She laughed. Don't be morbid. I raised my glass. To new beginnings. We ate. We talked. She told me about her day in town. A little too quickly, a little too rehearsed. I let her lie. Let her fill the silence with soft deceptions and small betrayals wrapped in words like breeze and seafood. Then, as she reached for the bottle to pour a second glass, I stood and walked to the canvas. I finished it, I said. The portrait. She perked up, already imagining herself immortalized. Can I see? I turned. Oh, absolutely. I pulled the cloth away. She stared. It wasn't what she expected. Her face was intact. The bones of it still hers. But the eyes were hollow, dark sockets masked in gold and crimson like some Venetian specter. Her smile gone. In its place, a porcelain mask cracked through the middle. The kind of smile painted on a doll before it's dropped and forgotten. The background? Fire. Waves crashing. The suggestion of a figure in the shadows behind her, faceless, holding a phone like a knife. She blinked. What is this? It's you, I said simply. The version of you that finally told the truth. She laughed once. Dry. Forced. You're being ridiculous. This is some performance art thing. No, I said. This is clarity. This is the moment the mask cracks. She moved toward the painting, lips trembling. You're scaring me. I stepped forward. No. You should scare you. Her gaze snapped to mine, and for the first time, I saw it. The fear. Not of me, but of being seen. Really seen. Without the makeup. Without the lies. Just raw and revealed and unworthy. I know about him, I said. Calm. Measured. The messages. The hotel. Room 206. I've seen it all. Her mouth opened. Closed. Nothing came out. Don't bother lying, I added. You're not very good at it. She took a step back. Logan, I was going to end it. I know. That's why I made you dinner. So we could both end something tonight. She froze. Then she laughed again, short, high, desperate. What do you mean? What are you talking about? I smiled gently. Don't worry. You'll find out tomorrow. So will he. She didn't eat another bite. Couldn't look at me. And when she went to bed early, I let her go. Let her sit with the silence. Let it wrap around her neck like a scarf she couldn't quite pull off. Because revenge? Revenge doesn't have to scream. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it just paints. And waits for morning. The morning came slowly, draped in that heavy kind of quiet that makes you think the air itself is bracing for something. I was already up when she stumbled into the kitchen, barefoot, hair a mess, sleep still clinging to her like the guilt she hadn't rinsed off. She paused in the doorway, like maybe the side of me would vanish if she blinked enough. It didn't. Morning, I said, sipping my coffee. Hungry? She hesitated. Not really. No. I raised an eyebrow. That's a shame. Thought you'd need your strength for today. She gave me a nervous glance. What's today? Oh, I said, sliding a folded envelope across the table. Just a little art exhibit I've put together. Surprise theme. Very exclusive. She looked down at the envelope like it might explode. What is this? Open it. She didn't move for a beat, then slowly unfolded the flap. Her hands trembled. She tried to hide it, but she was never good at hiding much from someone who had spent 7 years learning her like a language. Inside was a printed flyer. Elegant black type on white paper. The mask and the mirror, a private showing. Today at 1 p.m. Galleria Blue, Amalfi. What is this? She asked again, quieter this time. I leaned back. Let's call it a final chapter. Final chapter of what? Of whatever you thought this was. She didn't speak. Her eyes scanned the flyer again, like maybe the words would change if she stared long enough. They didn't. That was the beautiful thing about truth. It doesn't bend once you write it down. I sent invitations, I said casually, refilling my cup. To a few people you know. Her face froze. What people? Oh, Chase, for one. I watched her blink hard. That's his name, right? The one from the hotel. I figured he'd want to see the piece he inspired. You're lying, she whispered. I shook my head. No, Celia. That's your department. I'm just curating. She stood up fast, her chair screeching across the tile. You're insane. You're seriously doing this? Making a public, what? Spectacle? Some revenge stunt. I didn't flinch. I'm making art. And I'm telling the truth. If that feels like revenge, maybe that says more about you than me. She stormed off. I let her. By 12:30, I was already at the gallery. Galleria Blue sat on a quiet corner near the marina, small and intimate. The kind of place that made whispers echo like confessions. The owner, a retired sculptor named Marco, had agreed to the exhibit in exchange for a painting and a bottle of good bourbon. Italians appreciate drama, and Marco said mine was Shakespearean with better lighting. The walls were hung with tin canvases, each one titled after a lie. I'm just working late. She's just a friend. You're imagining things. It didn't mean anything. And at the center of the room, under a velvet cloth, stood the crown jewel, the final portrait of Celia. This one was different. Not just the mask. The mask was gone. I'd painted her as she was when the truth hit. Eyes wide, mouth open in the moment between realizing she was caught and deciding which lie to grab next. Her beauty was still there, but stripped raw. The background was splintered glass. Reflections of her in each shard. Laughing with him, texting under blankets, standing in hotel windows with her back to the world. The truth, refracted. At 1:07, they arrived. Together. She was gripping his arm, eyes darting like a hunted animal. He looked confused, maybe a little amused. Still had that overconfident swagger, ironic for a man wearing a linen blazer and no socks. A small crowd was already there. Locals, tourists, a few faces from our circle, acquaintances who'd always smiled at our dinner parties but now looked like they'd come for blood. Welcome, I said, smiling like a man hosting a wedding. Glad you could make it. What is this? Chase asked, half laughing. I gestured to the wall. A celebration of honesty. Celia grabbed my arm. Logan, please. We can talk. Privately. I shook her off gently. We talked. You just weren't listening. Chase stepped forward. Is this your idea of revenge? Man, you must be seriously broken. I turned to him. Tell me, Chase. When she said she was mine, did you think she was lying then? Or did you assume she just lied well? His smile faded. Good. Then I pulled the cloth. Gasps. A murmur rippled through the room like a wave hitting stone. And Celia, her face collapsed. That exact expression I'd captured flickered onto her real face, like she was watching herself unravel in real time. People stared. Some whispered. A couple even clapped. Not for cruelty. No, I hadn't made a mockery. I'd made a mirror. She turned to Chase. Say something. He looked at the painting, then at her, and stepped back. Just a step. But it said everything. She turned to me, tears bubbling now. Why are you doing this? Because you buried me in lies, I said. And I decided to dig up the truth and hang it on a wall. She ran out. Chase followed a second later, but slower. Much slower. I stood in the center of the room, surrounded by painted sins and stunned faces. I didn't smile. I didn't bow. I just stood. Because sometimes silence is the applause. And justice? Justice doesn't always wear a robe. Sometimes it wears oil paint. The gallery cleared out slowly. People filed past with awkward glances, polite nods, and the occasional whisper that wasn't meant to be overheard but absolutely was. Bold, cruel, brilliant. I didn't care how they labeled it. I wasn't looking for praise. I wasn't searching for sympathy. I was done playing parts in other people's dramas. This was my stage now, and I'd closed the curtain my way. Marco patted my shoulder as he locked up. You sure you don't want a drink? I've got one waiting at the villa, I said. Besides, I think I've had enough confessionals for one day. He nodded, giving me that look only old artists can pull off. Half admiration, half warning. Be careful, Logan. Some ghosts don't leave when you bury them. They hang around, waiting for a sequel. I gave a tight smile. Then they'll be waiting a long time. The walk back to the villa was quiet. The sea to my left, the town behind me, and ahead, just that lonely clifftop house and a sunset that looked far too beautiful for a man who had just burned down his marriage. When I got there, she was waiting. Celia. On the porch, red-eyed, barefoot, wearing the same white dress from the day before, now wrinkled and hanging off her like it had given up too. She stood as I approached, arms crossed like she was still bracing for control. Still trying to lead the scene. "You humiliated me," she said. I stepped past her, keys already in hand. I told the truth. "You just didn't like the frame I put it in." She followed me inside. "You didn't have to make it public. You could have talked to me. We could have worked through it." I dropped the keys on the table and laughed, low and sharp. "Celia, you were never planning to work through anything. You were planning your escape. You just didn't expect me to pack your guilt and hang it in a gallery. I made a mistake." I turned slowly. "Which part? The lying, the hotel rendezvous, or the part where you looked me in the eye every night knowing you were already someone else's story?" Her voice cracked. "It wasn't supposed to be like that." "No," I said. "It never is." She sank into the armchair like her legs couldn't hold the weight of her own lies anymore. He left. I raised an eyebrow. "Chase? Can't say I'm shocked. You both built something on sand. You just didn't expect the tide to show up." She looked up at me, suddenly small. "You won." That pulled a bitter smile from me. "This wasn't about winning, Celia. You think I wanted this? That I dreamed of painting your betrayal in front of strangers like it was my masterpiece? I didn't win. I survived." She stared at the floor, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't know how to come back." "You didn't want to," I said. "You just wanted the illusion to hold long enough until you could leave clean. Problem is, I don't believe in clean exits anymore. I believe in consequences." A silence hung between us. Heavy. Final. Then she said it. "Did you ever love me? Even now?" The honesty caught me off guard. But I didn't dodge it. "I did," I said. "With everything I had. Even when you started slipping away. I kept loving the version of you I remembered. The woman who used to fall asleep on the couch with her head in my lap, mumbling about dreams that didn't include hotel rooms and burner phones." A tear slipped down her cheek. She didn't wipe it. "I loved you so much," I continued, "that I painted you even as you lied to me. I clung to whatever was left of you, even when it hurt. But now," I shook my head, "now I don't even recognize the woman sitting in front of me. And I don't mourn strangers." She didn't argue, didn't beg. Maybe she knew it wouldn't matter. "You're leaving tomorrow," I said. Her head snapped up. "What?" "I booked you a flight. 10 a.m. Naples Airport. First class, because I'm still that guy, whether you think I'm boring or not." "And what if I don't go?" I leaned against the counter, calm as a statue. "Then I'll make sure your next boyfriend sees a private showing. And the next. And the one after that. You see, Celia, you gave me a gift, proof. And I've learned to make beautiful things out of proof." Her jaw clenched. But she said nothing. Just nodded. There was a time I'd have taken her silence as surrender. Now, I saw it for what it was: regret without growth. Guilt without accountability. She went to the bedroom, packed in silence. I didn't help. Didn't watch. The next morning, I drove her to the airport. No music. No goodbyes. Just a hand on the gear shift and the ghost of a love story fading in the rearview mirror. When she got out, she paused at the terminal doors. "I hope you find peace," she said. I looked at her, steady. "I already did," I replied. The moment I stopped asking why, she disappeared into the crowd. And I drove off. Not as a man broken. Not as a man betrayed. But as a man who had finally finished the painting. 2 weeks passed. The villa was quiet now. Still smelled faintly of her shampoo in the bathroom and her perfume on the pillows, but her energy was gone. And that was a mercy. I shipped the last painting back home with a note. "Do not hang. Store. Until further notice." It wasn't that I couldn't look at her anymore. It's that I'd already seen everything. And I wasn't about to live with it on my wall. My friends back home called, asked questions. A few congratulated me in that half-horrified, half-impressed tone guys use when they don't know whether to high-five you or hug you. "You really did it, man," one said. "She had it coming," said another. "Yeah, maybe. But that wasn't why I did it. I didn't burn the house because I was angry. I burned it because it was never my house to begin with. Just a stage set, built on trust one never should have leased out. And then, 3 days later, I got the letter. Handwritten. No return address. You don't know me, but I know her. I saw the gallery. I saw the painting. Thank you. I thought I was the only one she lied to. Turns out, she's been wearing masks her whole life. No name. Just initials. B. I didn't have to guess long. The guy before me. The guy during me. Or the guy after him. Did it matter? Celia had left more broken glass behind her than I could sweep up. And that's when the idea hit me. Not a plan. Not a stunt. A gallery. Not of her. Of them. Of us. Of all of it. I reached out to Marco. I want to do another exhibit, I said. Same theme. No, I replied. Bigger. Call it collateral. It would be a collection, not of faces, but of aftermath. I sent out anonymous invites. Let whispers do the rest. Anyone who'd ever been betrayed, blindsided, gutted by love. I gave them space. Some sent photos. Some poems. Some sketches scrawled on napkins, others carved from stone. One guy submitted a voicemail, just the sound of him breathing on the line after reading the final breakup text. We mounted them all. Pain, raw and honest, hung on every wall. But not bitter. Not pitiful. Just real. And the centerpiece? A mirror. No frame. No title. Just a mirror. Because sometimes the hardest part of betrayal is seeing who you became because of it. The exhibit launched quietly. We didn't do press. Just word of mouth and a promise. No judgment. Just truth. It was a full house every day. You'd be amazed how many people carry stories they've never told. Some left in tears. Some in silence. A few left laughing, nervous, relieved, exorcised. Then, one rainy afternoon, she showed up. Celia. Umbrella dripping, hair wet, expression unreadable. She walked through the gallery like she wasn't sure if she was visiting a grave or a crime scene. I didn't greet her. Didn't follow. I just watched. She stopped at the mirror. Stared at it a long time. Then turned. And walked out. No words. Just the sound of her heels on wet tile. She didn't need to say anything. Because now, she finally understood. This wasn't about her anymore. It was never revenge. It was reflection. And not just hers. Mine. Months passed. Seasons turned like pages. I moved back into a smaller place. Nothing fancy. Just 4 walls, a roof, and a window that faced the sunrise. No masks. No paintings of ghosts. I stopped painting for a while. Thought maybe I was done. Then one day, I saw a woman on the street. Nothing dramatic. She was tying her shoe. Hair messy. Coffee in hand. Laughing at something on her phone. And I don't know why, but it hit me like a wave. That's what honesty looks like. So I went home. And I painted again. Not her. Not Celia. Just colors. Bold ones. Real ones. No outlines. No lies. Just emotion. And that's when I knew I was finally free. Not because I'd punished her. Not because I'd exposed her. But because I no longer needed to. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. But they're wrong. It's not a dish at all. It's a mirror. One you hand to the person who broke you and say, here. Look. See what you did. And when they flinch, when they look away, ashamed or angry or indifferent, that's your closure. Not because you hurt them, but because they finally saw it and couldn't deny it. Celia never called again. Never apologized. And that's fine. I didn't need it. Forgiveness isn't something you ask for. It's something you earn. And she never paid the bill. I did. But I also learned this. Betrayal isn't the end of your story. It's just the end of the chapter where you thought you were the only author. And once you stop mourning the plot twist, you pick up the pen. You paint again. And this time, you leave out the mask. You draw yourself. And that's the masterpiece.